Oh, hello. Didn't see you there. Welcome into UMass Sports Weekly, your number one source for all things UMass sports. I'm your host, Tommy Kaludi, and I hope you're as appalled as I was about that pathetic excuse for a Super Bowl. Cam Newton played horrible, Peyton Manning did absolutely nothing, and Roger Goodell, man, he is a schmuck. But I digress. I can promise one thing this show won't do that the Super Bowl did. Put our audience to sleep. Ha ha ha! All right, we got a great week of sports to talk about. The men's basketball team had two matches this weekend. The first against URI, where the Minutemen broke their 7-game losing streak. Unfortunately, they started a brand new one following a Saturday loss to Richmond. Phil Sanzo stops by to give us his analysis. The hockey team is playing poorly, and a matchup against BU was not what Dr. Dennehy ordered. This 6-3 loss was bad, but Alana Alonji will come in to tell you why its implications are even worse. AF Squared comes at you to show a slumping Minutewomen basketball team, and an abnormally quiet night from star Bria Stallworth. Then, Liam Byrne closes out the show with a men's lacrosse preview. Anyway, we had a busy week in UMass Sports, so let's attach our bungee cords, hook up the GoPro, and dive right in, because this is UMass Sports Weekly.
This is UMass Sports Weekly.
Hey there. CEO is ready for you this time. The men's basketball team finally captured a W last week against URI. Trey Davis, as you can see in this graphic, led the charge with 20 points, and Dante Clark added 17. The Minutemen put up a good game at the Mullen Center and finally got a big win. Now, Phil Sanzo is going to join us to talk about that game. Phil, what did UMass do differently against URI to finally break the 7-game losing streak?
Well, Tommy, they were very aggressive, and they have finally more than one player add production to this offensive lineup that has been very one-man or one-sided. Trey Davis put up 20, like the graphic showed. Dante Clark added 17, and Jabari Hines finally contributed from the bench. He brought in 9. That's much more than what he's been doing, and it's definitely something that the Minutemen needed, which helped lead them to their first win, like 8 games. They took advantage of URI's terrible offense. I mean, it was a very low-scoring game, as you could tell, and they took advantage of that bad offense, which helped them, in overtime, eventually command the lead.
Well, unfortunately, like I talked about in the intro, that win streak came to an end pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah.
The Minutemen fell to Richmond 69-53, and Phil talked about offense being bad for URI. Offense was even worse, as you can see in the graphic, for UMass. Putting up only 53 points in both halves, Dante Clark was the only player to score in double figures. And now, Phil, I want to turn to you. When I talk about who is going to be the X factor, you've talked about Trey Davis, you've talked about Dante Clark. We're getting down to the end of the season. Who do you think is going to be this team's MVP by the end of the year?
Well, I mean, if you have asked me this a week or two ago, you said Trey Davis easily just dropped 36 against Fordham. He was the biggest thing in that team. No one else contributing. But if you look at the numbers, Dante Clark is starting to creep up there as the guy that you might be like, you know what, this might be one of the most important factors to this team, because he's more than just a point scorer. He gets the rebounds, he gets the assists. Dante Clark, I mean, total points so far in the year, Trey Davis leads UMass with 735. Dante Clark has 704. I mean, that's about 1 game's work of points right there. That's not a big difference, especially, I mean, I was surprised when I saw that, considering the attention we give Clark and the attention we give Davis. They have a fairly similar 3-point percentage, both 3 points. Davis at .364 and Clark's at .365. So those are similar. I mean, and then you see Davis excel with the defensive rebounds. He has 83 defensive rebounds to Davis's 67. I mean, Dante Clark's a little bit taller, a little more aggressive looking than Trey Davis, and that has really helped him in the defensive part of the game. Why I think going forward, Dante Clark is going to be very, very valuable to this team, even more so than what Trey Davis has been in the past. So Dante Clark, even in Richmond, it looked like the only person that showed up to Richmond was Dante Clark. He had 23 points, 6 3-pointers in that game. Trey Davis only had 4 points. Not 4 3-pointers, 4 points. So, yeah, Dante Clark's starting to become the more consistent player, the more all-around player, in my opinion.
Obviously a struggle. Richmond, of course, is closer than URI to the top of the A10 tournament standings.
Definitely.
And I want to turn to those for a minute. Now, UMass is in the bottom third.
Yeah.
Winning the A10 is not out of the question,
No.
but it's going to be difficult. What do the Minutemen have to do down the stretch in order to secure an A10 tournament victory and get into the NCAA tournament, if that's even possible?
Well, for one time, they're going to need to play aggressive like they played against URI. They played aggressive. In the overtime, they started overtime at a 6-0 run and basically kept that differential the entire game, in the entire overtime, and that's what eventually led to their win. They're going to need to keep that aggression. We saw that aggression completely fall in Richmond, hence the terrible loss. So the biggest thing about these next 8 games is that of the 8 games, only 3 of them are against teams they haven't seen before. So of teams they've seen before, they know what they're up against. They beat LaSalle, which they play again. They beat URI, and they should have beat Fordham. So those are 3 wins right there. They played George Mason, who they haven't seen, but George Mason is ranked below UMass in the standings. So those are 4 wins that they should have right there. They just got to play aggressive and take advantage of those games that they should win.
All right, thank you, Phil. Tell our fans when's our next home game?
Next home game is, it's a good question. I have to look at the schedule.
All right. If it's against LaSalle, go check it out. Support the Minutemen. Remember, season's not dead yet. There's still a chance to win the A10. Thank you very much, Phil.
You're welcome.
Don't touch that dial because we'll come right back. We're going to talk a little bit about the UMass Minutemen hockey team taking on number 11 and last year's runner-up, Boston University. Stay tuned. Welcome back in. Unfortunately, the weekend was not a fun time for the Minutemen hockey team as they took on number 11 BU at the Mullen Center. As you can see from the graphic, Jordan Greenway and Danny O'Regan led BU, both with multiple point games, which in turn led to the collapse of the Minutemen. One, I want to talk to you, Alana. Alana Alonji in here right now. UMass has been bad since the inception of 2016.
Yep.
You wanted to break down the last 5 games, all conference games, all losses. I want you to take it away. Give us what we need to know about how bad these Minutemen are playing.
Well, first of all, despite being injury-free for the first time since December, they still managed to lose on Friday, which we'll talk about that later. But I want to take a look at the past 5 games. One, because they were all home games, which you would think would work to their advantage because they're at home. Maybe that would give them some reason to win. But we're going to take a look at some stats. They're just not stacking up against their opponents. I mean, it's been such a depressing homestand. UMass has been outscored 29-13 over the past 5 games. I mean, they haven't gotten into barely gone into double digits. I mean, if you look in the first period alone, they're being outscored 12-5. There's just no sense of urgency coming into these games. I mean, you think that when the puck drops, they want to get going right away, and there's none of that going on. I mean, they're just completely stale, completely flat, and it shows by the statistics, by how badly they're being outscored. And if we look a little closer into maybe the effort going into that, it's not there either. We're going to look at their shots on by period also. 199 to 144, they're being outshot. I mean, dismal numbers, like 44 to 67 in the second period, 46 to 60 in the third period. I mean, these numbers are just pathetic, especially against, I mean, I know we're in one of the best conferences in the league, but they have to step up against these types of teams, and there's just no effort, and there's nothing going for this team right now at all.
I mean, Alana, you're right. It is the Hockey East, but teams like Maine, Vermont, Merrimack, and
They're
Northeastern
easily
have
beatable.
not been playing very
Yeah.
well this year. So you can't use competition as an excuse this year. Now, Alana, you pointed out something to me that UMass is second to last nationally in goals per game allowed at 4.04 allowed per game. Is goaltending solely is Nick Renyard solely responsible for this, or are we divvying out blame to everybody right now?
Well, first of all, Micheletto doesn't seem to be able to settle on a goaltender in the first place. Dill started against BU on Friday and allowed 2 goals on the first 3 shots. I mean, that's unacceptable. Nick Renyard played okay. He made 27 saves, but he still allowed 4 goals. You cannot allow that many goals. I mean, I understand these are talented teams, but not saying they're solely to blame. Defense has to step up. They have to be better on the boards. They have to get into the lanes and block shots. But goaltending, it's going way south, and I think they are solely to blame.
Well, there you have it. Goaltenders solely to blame. Now, The Minutemen do have an opportunity to get a win tonight against AIC, a team who last year they smoked multiple players. Frank Vetrano, now a Bruin, had multiple goals. Steven Jacobellis and Ray Pagozzi had multi-point games. On paper, AIC seems like an easy win. 2 years ago, that wasn't the case when they upset us. But tonight, why is this a must-win for the UMass Minutemen?
Well, they're on a 10-game losing streak, and I think this is the perfect opportunity to snap that, gain some confidence and momentum back going into their last 5 games of the season. And AIC is not a good team. I mean, they've only have 5 wins on the season. This is an easy win for the Minutemen, and I think that they can do it, but they need to focus. They need to come out strong the minute the puck drops, and they have to play a full 60. They haven't played a full 60. We've seen them go on hot streaks. Against BU, they looked like they were having somewhat of a comeback, but they need to play a full 60. They need to play smart, stay out of the penalty box, and I think this should be an easy win. I want to quote a former Minuteman who plays for Quinnipiac now, KJ Tiefenworth. He was quoted saying, "Guys work super hard and pay attention to details. Coming from the program I was at, it's night and day. The way guys prepare for practice, the way they battle for spots. It translates well, and it's a fun environment to play for." I mean,
and he's saying this about Quinnipiac compared to UMass.
Compared to UMass. I mean, that's sad because you have a full week to prepare for these games, and you would think that despite the coaching problems, that UMass, would have a sense of urgency and want to win these games, but there is none, and I think that really translates onto the ice, and they got to do a better job preparing for these games.
Well, there you have it. I mean, the Minutemen struggled last year in the third period with being outscored almost 2-1. Now in the first period, that seems to be the case. So thank you very much, Alana.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to move on to a little bit more bad news, unfortunately, in the next segment, because Allie and Alex Francis are going to come on and talk to you a little bit about the women's basketball team. Stay tuned.
Welcome back for the first trivia night of spring semester. Starting things off with a bang, which team is picked to win their 8th straight A10 title? Is it A, men's basketball, B, women's lacrosse, C, men's lacrosse, or D, women's field hockey? Tweet your answers to @UM Sports Weekly for a shout out on next week's show. I'm Brittany Collins, and go UMass.
Right now, UMass basketball isn't in good shape. Last week, the Minutewomen took on Duquesne in a game where they lost 73-64 in overtime. Now, I'm here with Allie Furlow, who covered that game. Allie, I started because 9 points in an overtime loss. How do you lose by 9 points in a game that goes to overtime?
Well, it just seemed like the Minutewomen had just lost momentum in that overtime period. Duquesne outshot them. They were 6 for 9, and the UMass Minutewomen were 3 for 10. So it just seemed like they held their own during the whole entire game, except when it came to overtime, and they just lost it.
Now, this game is obviously a huge improvement from the way they've been playing in the past. So do you think they can build off of this, or do you think this is just a one-trick pony?
I mean, I definitely think that they can build off of this. They were leading in the first 3 quarters of the game. Bria Stallworth, Sierra Dillard, and Kimber Hill all scored in the double digits. In the first half, they were 9 for 16 and made 2 for 2 on their 3-point throws. After that, the shooting percentage did seem to go down in the first quarter. They were 31.8 in the second, 23.5 in the third, and 31.3 in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter for Duquesne, Devana Workman of Duquesne tied the game at 56-56, and then, like I said, in overtime, Duquesne just seemed to come out on top, resulting in 73-64.
Now, Allie, as always, you like to point out standout players. I usually guess Bria Stallworth. Is that the case this week?
It is, but also with that is Sierra Dillard. She's the sophomore guard. In the game, she played 36 of the 40 minutes. She had 17 points. She was the second highest scorer for the Minutewomen, and she had 3 assists. Bria Stallworth, who is the freshman guard, played the entire game, has had such a great season so far. She was 21 points. She was the highest scorer between both teams, and she had 4 assists.
All right, Allie, thank you very much. Now, there was another game here at the Mullen Center that both you and Alex covered, and Alex has the story on that game against Fordham. Take a look. Well, there you see it, another tough loss, Alex. So I want, first of all, you have a really nice breakdown of the game. What went wrong there for the Minutewomen against a team like Fordham, who they had a chance to beat?
I mean, they played
well for what they've been playing like, honestly. But I'm getting really sick of listening to in the post-game press conference and reading about the next day about Coach Sharon Dolly just talking about how proud she is of them for how they played, for keeping up with these teams shooting-wise. We saw this against Rhode Island. We saw this in the Duquesne game where they took them all the way to overtime. They shoot well enough to hang in there the entire time, but, I mean, we'll talk about this. Fordham has had a respectable season, but if UMass makes more than their 2 3-point shots, then they could have won this game. And it's not that they aren't taking these shots, or it's not that they're missing these shots. They're not even taking them. They're not trying. I think they're second to last in the league right now for 3-pointers. And it's just kind of, you can tell how comfortable they are, or uncomfortable they are from beyond the 3-point arc. At one point in the first quarter, Rashida Timbilla, wide open, no one on her, right beyond the arc, and instead of shooting it, taking the shot, she takes a few steps forward for a 2-point jumper. Again in the fourth, Bria Stallworth at one point, wide open again on the arc, had so much time to shoot the ball but hesitated for so long that one of the Fordham guards got a 3-second violation in the paint. And it's just strange to see. I think moving on, this team really needs to find a shooter for next season that's comfortable with these wide-range shots. Also, they need to not turn the ball over 13 times. You have Sierra Dillard, excellent performance in this game, 13 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. She had 5 turnovers. That's not okay, and it's not like it's Fordham getting these amazing steals off of them. It's just bad, sloppy passing. It's like these girls don't even know where their teammates are going to be on the court. There's just no connection there, as we saw in my package a little while ago. It's just they're completely throwing the ball out of bounds. They're not making the connections, and it's really troublesome. This far in the season, these girls have been playing with each other this long, and you'd think they would be in sync by now. You'd think they'd figure it out, but we're just not seeing that. And I don't know, Tommy. At this point, I might just say, like, can sell the season. That's it.
Well, it's interesting you say sell the season. I know the men's basketball team has 8 games left. There's still a good chunk of season left for these girls. Is there anything here? We've talked in the past about maybe some locker room issues, girls not getting along on the court, but is there anything even left for us to salvage with this team?
Tommy, there's 14 teams in the A10. These girls are in 13th place. At this point, honestly, you have Kimber Hill. She's just a junior. She'll be back next season. Sierra Dillard's a sophomore. Bria Stallworth, real young, freshman. We have great players to work with next season. It's just a matter of getting these players to work together. I want to say they need more time together to learn each other and get in the same vibe, but they've had this long already. But this season, it's not looking like it. I think if Coach Dolly can get in the recruiting process as soon as possible, find this team some 3-point shooters, because that's really, honestly, I would be happy with. I think that could get this team going, make a little bit of a run in the A10 for next season. But as far as this year,
and it's unfortunate you have to say that. Now, we've been talking about this a lot with the hockey team because of their struggles. I want to throw a curveball to you. Do you think coaching is perhaps the problem with this team right now? You talked about how you didn't like the rah-rah great effort post-game chants. Do you think that maybe it's just the overall coaching mantra that needs to change?
I don't want to jump to say that, because no one likes to see anyone lose their job ever.
Unless it's Roger Goodell.
You're right. Sometimes it's out of the coach's control, but we're at a point where we're seeing the same thing every week. They're turning the ball over too much. They're not taking these 3-point shots. They're missing connections on passes. Their helper defense is lacking here and there. And it's just, at what point do we say, all right, you're not fixing these issues, we need to look elsewhere? But I guess we'll see how the rest of the season pans out. It's still too early to make that call, I think.
All right, well, thank you both. And unfortunately, this team has been slumping, but hopefully them, like the Minutemen hockey team, can get a couple wins and turn the season back around. Thanks a lot. Don't touch that dial, because when we come right back, Liam Byrne is going to give you his preview of the men's lacrosse season. Stay tuned. Last season, the men's lacrosse team finished 5-10, but luckily they clinched a tournament bid and lost by only 1 point to this year's projected number 1 team, Townsend. I'm here with Liam Byrne, who did the preview package for this season. Now, Liam, What's your big storyline of the preseason? What do all UMass lacrosse fans really need to focus on for this year?
Well, not really focus on this year, Tommy, but this is more of an off-field thing and more of a past thing for the Minutemen. Coach Dick Garber, Garber Field, named after Dick Garber, longtime coach for the Minutemen, was inducted as a member of the Intercollegiate Men's Lacrosse Coaching Association at the beginning of last week. This guy has an impressive resume, Tommy. It's just lists and lists of wonderful accolades, and you can see here he coached from 1955 to 1990. That's a long time. Overall record 300, 142, 3. Led UMass to 9 NCAA tournament appearances, and you can see the rest. But wait, there's more. Check this out here. There's just so many accolades as coach. He's probably one of the best coaches UMass has ever had. Led UMass to their only undefeated team in 1969, going 10-0. He's the first Division I lacrosse coach to reach 300 wins. And Tommy, I don't want this to take away from the actual season, but it's pretty impressive, I have to say. It's long awaited too.
I mean, obviously, Dick Garber getting inducted is a big deal. Like you said, he's a phenomenal coach. Arguably, you put him up maybe with Coach Cow as best coaches in UMass history. You're right.
I'd say.
And he didn't illegally recruit Marcus
Exactly,
Gaby.
yeah.
So
Garber has a better
Garber
rep.
might have that.
He's got a better rep than Cal.
But let's get right back to the team this season.
Yes,
so,
of course.
Coach Cannella every year picks out captains. Who did he pick, and why should we care about them?
He picked 4 senior captains this year, Tommy.
4 seniors.
4 of them, yes. 4. Bob Fahey, Kurt Hunziker, Kyle Karaska, and Kevin Porcelet. Now these guys, all seniors, 3 of which are on the defensive end, and one of them is a D-midi. And last year, the defense for UMass was definitely one of their less strong suits because they lost a lot of close games. And
Less strong is a very nice way to put it.
exactly, yeah, I didn't want to be too mean.
We're positive here.
Exactly. So Coach Cannella in his 22nd season was quoted saying about these 4 captains that he put out on the for this year. He said, "These 4 have been strong leaders since their freshman year and now have a chance to move this team forward." So he has a lot of confidence in him. He always has all confidence in every single guy he recruits and who he has on his roster, Tommy.
Now, Liam, in every preseason package you see on ESPN, even on NESN, you point out who to look for, players to watch. Mm-hmm. Who are 2 guys you think that we need to look out for this Minutemen lacrosse team?
I mentioned one of them already, Kyle Karaska, senior defenseman, and then another one, junior midfielder, Gianni Bianchin. And both of them were named to the 2016 preseason All-CAA team. Bianchin last year, as a sophomore, had 28 points and 5 man-up goals. That's big for the Minutemen. You know, man-up is huge, even in hockey and in lacrosse. So these guys are definitely going to be guys to look out for this season. With Nick Mariano gone, I believe. I didn't see him on the roster, and I looked him up. And a lot of key seniors are off the roster this year as they graduated.
Now, Liam, when you look forward to this team, obviously it's where you finish, not where you start. But where you start is a really fun place to speculate.
Exactly, yes.
Where does this team rank right now in the CAA preseason poll?
Well, right now they're number 5. But I want to mention something about Garber Field. They're going to have a brand new resurfaced field to play on this season, Tommy. If you look at this graphic, look at that gorgeous panoramic photo of Garber Field. It was newly renovated over the summer, and both the men's and women's team are ready to play on that one. But back to your original question, here are the 2016 CAA preseason polls. As you can see, UMass is ranked number 5, as I mentioned, with a record last year of 5-10 and a conference record of 2-3. Now you can see Towson, number 16, at the top of that list. They were the CAA champions last year as they beat UMass in a heartbreaker 9-8. And then they ended up going on to play in the first 2 rounds of the NCAA and getting knocked off by Notre Dame. But finally, little preview of who we're about to play for the first 5 games, Tommy. Now here it is, starting off this Saturday at Army, 11 o'clock. They started off the season against Army last year. Army was ranked, but this year they are not. So hopefully the Minutemen will come out first game of the season and really take over that game. But something to key on, the first conference game, not until April 2nd at Delaware. And Delaware, as you saw, was number 6 in the preseason poll, and they didn't do so well last year either, Tommy. So
Started off strong.
Start off strong against the non-conference, and in conference play, hopefully start off even stronger.
All right, there you have it. The men's lacrosse team, maybe you can turn a corner this year, get back to the supremacy that we were used to. Thank you very much, Liam.
Welcome, Tommy.
Unfortunately, that's going to do it here for us at UMass Sports Weekly. You can follow us on Twitter. Phil's Periscope, and I'm going to mention Periscope earlier now because I keep telling you guys to use the Periscope. We got a Snapchat. You guys can watch it. We're live from every Moen Center game, every home game. Facebook page. That page is getting a lot of likes. Keep getting updates on my phone. It's really obnoxious, but I love it. I love it. And any other social media site, Instagram, anywhere you can find us, follow us. Have a great week, UMass. And just remember, be back here next Tuesday. All right? We'll see you later.